بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. The Quran is called Kareem. It is a noble, honourable book. The Quran, the glorious Quran, the magnanimous Quran. إنه لقرآن كريم. Why? Quran possesses great honor, it possesses grandeur, and the bearer of the Quran will be worthy, eligible for these sifat and attributes. So the qualities of the Quran of being Kareem can be transmitted to the Qari, where he will become Kareem, he will become honored in dunya and akhirat. So with this intention, this niyat should be made that I am reciting the Qur'an Kareem to become Kareem. Here under this ayah, the commentators have explained that a normal word, human words, when you hear it, it is outdated and it is not often repeated. Unlike the Quran, every time you hear it, it is new, it is a means of talazzus, pleasure, ecstasy, enjoyment. So this Quran is Kareem because this Karam remains perpetually. Likewise, other commentators have mentioned Al-Kareem هو الذي كان طاهر الأصل ظاهر الفضل. A Kareem is one who by nature, by default, they are pure and virtue is apparent in them. So for example, a person called Sakhi is generous. يكثر عطاءه, he increases his generosity. There's no limit to his generosity. Oh yashal, or his generosity is very easy. He doesn't hold hard, he doesn't retract, he feels it difficult to give. وَيُسَمَّى كَرِيمًا. This Sakhi now, who has no limits to his generosity, is called Kareeman. So Kareem in Quran also is Tahirul Asl Zahirul Fadl. By nature, Quran is pure and its virtues are apparent. And like how a Sakhi is generous, Quran is Sakhi because it will make you Kareem, it will give you honor in dunya, it will give you honor in akhirah, it will give you guidelines to a code of life, a code of conduct in this world. And Quran Kareem, this ayah, ya فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِئِ النُّجُومِ. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken a very special oath and emphasizing that the jawab of this is إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ. So the first portion and the second, which is the reply to the qasam. Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taken such a great qasam and oath? Because this Qur'an Kareem is very generous. There is no limit to his generosity. Part of that is generous in making you honored. يَجِيءُ الْقُرْآنِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَيَقُولُ. Quran will be there on the day of Qiyamah. Ya Rabbi, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, beautify the person of the Quran, beautify the person of the Quran. فَيُلْبَسْ تَاجَ الْكَرَامَةِ. He will be honored with the crown of honor. ثُمَّ يَقُولُ يَا رَبِّ زِدْهُ. Quran will say, Allah increase. فَيُلْبَسُ حُلَّةَ الْكَرَامَةِ. He will be adorned with the clothing, the garments of honor. ثُمَّ يَقُولُ يَا رَبِّ ارْضَى عَنْهُ. Ya Allah, be happy with him. فَيَرْضَى عَنْهُ. Allah will become happy with this person. فَيَقُولُ اقْرَأْ وَارْتَقِي. Recite and your stages will be elevated. Likewise, أَهْلُ الْقُرْآنِ هُمْ أَهْلُ اللَّهِ. The people of the Quran are the people of Allah. Wa khasatuhu, and they are the special chosen servants to be the people of Allah. Is a great honor. So they will be given this title in this world and in the year after as well. So this Quran draws, it attracts nobility. We need to see the magnet of our heart. Where is this heart attracted to? Is it attracted to the Quran? It is attracted to dhikr. Is it attracted to salah, amal, dua, tahajjud? Or is this heart dark, which follows the dark screens of Dajjal? Is this heart with light, looks for the light of Allah? Are we attracted by the attractions of the world or the attractions of Akhirah? Where does this heart cling to? Where is it making affinity? Where does this heart want to affiliate with? Are we most of the time on the Musalla? Most of the time on the Kalam-e-Pak? Or our hands holding something else napak? So when you hold the Kalam-e-Pak, it makes you pak. And you hold other gadgets, it may make a person napak. One slip and a person's entire life can slip. So we need to check ourselves. As the Shahid says, Ya man bidunyahu ishtaghal qad gharrahu tulul amal. O you who are preoccupied in the worldly engagements, distant hopes have deceived you. أَوَلَمْ يَزَلْ فِي غَفْلَةٍ حَتَّى دَنَا مِنْهُ الْأَجَلِ. Will you remain in negligence forever, in your ghaflat, in your PlayStations, in your gaming, in your WhatsApp chats, in your social media, in your movies, in your different platforms, till the appointed time arrives. حتى دن منه الأجل. الموت يأتي بغتة والقبر صندوق العمل. Death will come unannounced. The approach of death will be unannounced, while the grave is a container of amal, good deeds. اصبر على أهوالها لا موت إلا بالأجل. So these difficulties of this world, endure it patiently. Remember, death shall arrive only on its appointed time. So this world is not a paradise. Don't get caught up. It is a darul imtihan. So am I moving towards the ta'at, the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? That's why the hukama you say, حركة الطاعة دليل المعرفة كما أن حركة الجسم دليل الحياة. Movement towards obedience is a sign of ma'rifah. As you move in towards Allah, His Rasul, Deen, Sunnat, Salat, Ta'aleem of Deen, dhikr of Allah with sincerity, that's a sign of the ma'rifat of Allah. Like the movement of the body is a sign of life. When the body moves, that's a sign that person is alive. No movement, we need to check the pulse. No movement to a ta'at, we need to check our pulse. Do we really want Allah and His Rasul? Is this the purpose which you've been created for? Have you lost that purpose? Am I on the road to progress, or am I moving backwards? So a person will be evaluating themselves all the time. Bhai Padia used to say, अपना कमी पहचानने का नाम hidayat hai. Recognizing your flaws is called hidayat. The more flaws you realize you have, the more, this is a sign of hidayat. The more you think so, the reformed consider themselves unreformed. Those people who say Islam, and they are traveling to Allah, the more they go to Allah, the more they understand how much flaws they have. Whereas the unreformed consider themselves reformed. They consider themselves perfect. We are flawless, we are faultless, I am absolute, like Iblis. So this world of insanity, only Quran and Sunnah will give us sanity. World of madness. So we need to see which part of the scale do we fit in. Are we the spectators in the sane world, look at the insane? Or are we the insane people and we consider ourselves sane? Some person was convinced he was a chicken, so every day he used to go around the garden, clucking, making a noise, back in the ground. So neighbor used to see him every day. So they told the wife, why don't you take him to the doctor to get him cured? Bichara is suffering, struggling. She said, I need the eggs. I need the eggs. She also was insane. Yeah, but. So, where do I fit in? The doctor heard of a patient who saved another patient from suicide. He tried to commit suicide in the bathtub. So the senior doctor and the director of the hospital got together and said, let's speak to this rescuer. Maybe he's eligible to be set free and live a normal life. So they called him up and looking through his file, the doctor said, looking through your file and taking account of your heroic behavior, I'm confident that you are ready to be allowed home and go back as normal, carry on a normal life. I'm just so sorry and sad that the man you saved killed himself later with a rope around his neck. He killed himself later with a rope around his neck. So the rescuer said, no, doctor, you got it wrong. He didn't kill himself. After I rescued him, I had to hang him to dry. So who's who in the zoo? That's the question. Man called the secretary at the mental hospital and asked who was in room 18. So she said, nobody. She checked, nobody. So on the other side of the line, she heard him say, great, wonderful, I must have escaped. So where do we fit in? Am I a person who's looking at my Islah all the time? The hukama, you say, al-muqirru bit-taqsiri abadan mahmudun wal-iqraru bit-taqsiri alamatul qabul. The person who admits his shortcomings will always be praised. In the Asman you'll be praised. People will praise you. Admit it, I'm wrong, maaf. I said wrong words, I'm wrong, I reacted wrong. Admit your faults. You're worthy of being praised. So admission of one's shortcomings is a sign of qabuliyat. Look at Sahaba. So we should be grateful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this Quran, given us this deen. A person who doesn't have deen, what's his days, what's his nights, what directions does he have? So we are fortunate. We should make shukr to Allah. Hukama, you say, kufranun ni'matu lawman. Kufranun ni'mati lawmun wa suhbatul ahmaqi shumun. Wretchedness is to be ungrateful for a ni'mat. A sign of wretchedness is to be ungrateful. If you don't practice on Quran, if you don't follow Sunnah, that's a sign of wretchedness. Kufranun ni'mati lawmun wa sahbatul ahmaqi shumun. The company of a fool is ill fortune also. So has this dunya really caught us? We think so, we're flawless, we're there. Ml Thanwi rahmatullahi alayhi, Mujahid Millat used to say that greed is the cause of all troubles. Actually, it's the root of all spiritual diseases. Causes arguments, fights. Why is there a need for court cases? Because of this greed. If there was no greed, no one would oppress each other. Nobody would be stealing. How would it be harming others? It's the root of akhlaq razila, deepest qualities. The Arifin used to say that the root of these akhlaq razila is pride. So Hazrat used to say pride is the desire, the greed for name and fame. Pride is the desire, the greed for name and fame. And the purpose and object of pride is ultimately greed. So it's the root. So Quran is there for my honor in dunya and akhirat. Abu al-Nasr Nisaburi was a grave digger. Says once I was digging a grave, and as I was digging, it led to another grave which opened up. So I seen a youth dressed in fine clothing with sweet smelling fragrance which was emanating from his body. In his hand he had the Quran, whose letters were written in green writing. On the Quran it was written in green writing. And he was busy engaged in tilawah. Then he noticed me and he asked, "Has Qiyamah come?" So I said, no, it's not Qiyamah yet. So he told me, then close the grave, close the grave. Why are you prying onto my privacy? So he said, I closed it. What honor, what honor in akhirat, honor in dunya. Allah respects the people of the Quran. Allah gives them respect. Qari Abdul Basit was a famous Qari. Somebody asked him, you recite Quran with shauq, ambition. MashaAllah, Allah has given you this gift. Have you witnessed any miracle of the Quran? So he said, you're asking about one miracle. I've seen many miracles. I've witnessed it. So he said, tell us. So he said, Jamal Abdul Nasser, while he was the president of Egypt, once traveled to Russia, and communism was the order of the day. So while he was in Moscow, he had a meeting with political figures. After the normal proceedings, they would normally engage in formal discussions. So one of the communists one day asked him that, why don't you study communism? Why don't you, na'udhu billah, abandon Islam? If you do that, we'll transform your country. We will introduce the latest, the most advanced technology. You will become the leaders of the world. You will rule with the technological advancement. So he didn't really pursue the discussion with them, and he left. And he wanted to pursue the discussion and give them details of his reason. So it so happened 2 years later again there was a meeting. A presidential delegation was supposed to come to Russia. So Abdul Basit said, I received an official letter from the president to accompany him on the trip. So I was very surprised that an invitation to the Arab world, normally we go Middle East, we go Pakistan, we go to Muslim countries. What am I going to do in a country of atheists? So I made preparations, the official meeting was over, time was allocated for informal discussions. Then Jamal Abdul Nasser introduced me to this group and requested I should recite for them. So I told him, no, I'll recite for them some Quran. So I started with the portion of Surah Taha, which was the sabab and the cause for Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh reverting to Islam. So he said, I recited 2 rukus of the surah, and when I opened my eyes, I witnessed the miracle of the Quran, that these communists were in tears. So Jamal Abdul Nasser asked them, why are you crying, why are you in tears? They said, we have no idea what your companion has just recited, but these powerful words have melted our hearts and caused tears to flow from our eyes. This effect upon us, we cannot explain the effect of this here. So honor in dunya. Uthman Ghazi was a very poor person, he lived in a village, but what is the origin of the Uthmani Khilafah? He used to make ikram of the gas, and it so happened that the residents didn't like that, so they evicted him from the village. He went to his sheikh, he explained what had happened. So the sheikh told him that you must sleep over by my place. Uthman Ghazi He was very tired, he laid down, and afterwards when he laid down and then he looked around him, he seen a copy of the Quran and his feet was facing the Quran. So he immediately stood up, realized his mistake, he went to the Quran, stood at it respectfully, and he stood like this the entire night making tawbah and istighfar. Ya Allah, I've been disrespectful, I stretched my feet to the direction of the Quran, please forgive me. When you respect Quran, you'll be respected. The next morning the Shaykh came and said, Uthman, Allah has given you glad tidings. The Quran has interceded for you in the court of Allah last night and its intercession was accepted. The command has been decided, it's been decreed, your ex-offspring will be rulers. He didn't understand. He said, my people evicted me, I'm a nobody, I'm nowhere. And he expressed his surprise to the Shaykh. Anyway, he greeted the Shaykh and he left. As he was walking, 12 horsemen saw him and they said, we are in need of an Amir. We have decided the first person we meet, there will be Amir. So you should be our Amir. They gave him a horse. They said they will obey whatever he said, and they set out. And every village that they came, they conquered and they were being paid the protection. So they were given the option to pay the jizya or go, etc. conditions. So over time, the army and the wealth grew, and they went from travel from one area to another area. And the king of the time was a Christian as well. And over time, after conquering so many lands, they made him the commander-in-chief. And after the Roman king passed away, he became in charge. So just respect for Quran. See what respect Allah gave and what source of deen came alive in the world, honor. So we need to check ourselves all the time. Am I respecting the Quran? Allah will grant me honor in both the worlds. The amal for today is the virtues of the mu'adhin. ثلاثة لا يهلم الفزع الأكبر. 3 groups of people. They will not be terrified by the great terror on the day of Qiyamah. ولا ينالهم الحساب. And they will not have to give hisab, kitab, accountability. Hum ala kathibim min misk. They will be on mountains, hills of musk. Hatta yufragu min hisabil khala'ik. Until accounting of the creation is completed. Rajulun qara al-Quran ibtagha'a wajhillah. A person who recited the Quran for the pleasure of Allah, led the people and they are happy with him. Secondly, da'in yad'u ila salat. A caller, a mu'adhin calling towards salah for the pleasure of Allah, and a slave who has fulfilled the rights of Allah and the rights of his master. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.